The story starts with a guy named Xiao Mo must take his first mock exam tomorrow. Today the offices were prepared for the tryout, so they were let go early. Some girl wished the boy good luck on his exam. It turned out to be his and a girl named Xiao Shi. She is the best student of the year and the most popular girl in school. Xiao Mo born into an average family, his grades are not the highest. The guy said goodbye to his girlfriend and behind them some students started whispering. They talked about how this girl could date a loser like our hero. But he can't really understand what she sees in him either. The guy wondered why such a cool girl liked him. Xiao Shi is the first in academic performance, so our hero will definitely not be able to enter the same university as her. The guy wondered if he was good enough for her. The boy said in his mind that he would very much like to be like the hero of the novel. Immediately afterward the system began to run. Xiao Mo was blinded by some light and he didn't realize what was happening. Some girl congratulated user Xiao Mo saying that the activation was successful. Our hero was very frightened and told the thing to stay away from him. The girl replied that the system was no joke, it was the latest high-tech development. But now the guy is a regular user. To become a master of this system, he has to pass a test. The system has given him his first assignment, he must follow his words and make it into the top 10 students in the class. The system added that he had just wished it himself, if he did not complete the task, the system would delete. Our hero thought for a while and asked if the system was going to disappear too. She replied that she wasn't the devil to give impossible tasks. The system gave him a free pledge kit and told him it expires in a month. Afterward, she said goodbye to the guy and said they would see each other again. Some kind of panel opened up in front of the guy and he was very surprised by it. As it turned out, the system had endowed him with a very brilliant memory. Either way, he should at least give it a try. Our hero opened the book and started reading everything to see if he could memorize it. After he read the whole book, it really turned out to be true. He was surprised at how powerful the system was. Suddenly, Xiao Mo recalled that the system said if he completed the tasks, then it would immediately delete. If it does happen, the guy will just continue to live the same way as before. He will continue and face ridicule and scorn. So he decided to change everything, because he had a chance. After a little thought, our hero realized that he had 14 hours left to prepare for the exam. He started doing calculations on how long it would take him to learn the entire book. If he manages to memorize everything, he can improve his level by 100 points. Since the results of the best student of the class is 650 marks, if he gets 600 marks, he can make it to the top 10. While eating dinner at the table, Mom asked that the boy put the book down so he could eat properly. Later at 1 o'clock in the morning the mother came again and said that it was time to go to bed, but the boy continued to teach. Even at 3 in the morning, he continued to study under a blanket with a flashlight. The system watched him and thought he was very diligent, even 1,000 of his predecessors failed. The system said that only those willing to work hard would get a chance to experience its strongest system. The next day, the guy was telling his girlfriend how much he enjoyed studying and that he spent all night on it. The girl walked closer to him and asked him if he was confident in his abilities. Xiao Mo replied that he hoped to be among the top 10 students. Xiao Shi looked at him and noticed that he seemed to have changed. The guy himself realized that sounded a little presumptuous. The girl replied that she too had great faith in him. She said she was going to an exam and suggested we have lunch together later. Our hero agreed and waved goodbye with a wave of his hand. His classmates laughed with him saying, "Isn't he ashamed to be a clown?" Xiao Mo noticed that they were talking about him again and put on his headphones. The guy clenched his fist and said to himself that they would all see what he was worth yet. There are so many weak kids in their class that no one even took the exam seriously. Suddenly our hero saw one of those questions he had been studying at night. He couldn't believe that he knew the answers to all the questions and they remained the same. Our hero realized that in this case 600 points is just a trifle. He is sure that he can score even 650 points. The teacher looked at him and wondered if he was really that fast on the assignment. She decided to look in his notebook and was shocked. For days later, classmates began to scoff and asked if this was the one of the top 10 students. Tolston replied that everyone was in anticipation of his next joke. He added that it was Xiao Mo Sam's fault for being mocked. The teacher came into the classroom and said it was just a practice exam to test their readiness. She started yelling that she didn't expect the students to write so poorly. She started announcing the results and the worst one was Lu Yu's. When the turn came to the honors student, he had 653 points, but as it turned out he was in second place. The whole class was shocked at these words. They were impatient to know who would be in first place. The teacher said there was only one person left whose results hadn't been announced yet. As it turned out the first place was our hero and he got 702 points. The guy started to come out for his exams and all the students were very surprised with him. Meanwhile, in the teacher's lounge of Linhai High School, the teachers began to discuss our hero. One of the teachers said he was definitely cheating, because he had never seen such results in his life. The second teacher replied that they were thinking about it. But it is unlikely that an average student would have been able to score as high as 700 at once. The teacher said it's impossible to find the answer in a book if you don't even have an idea where the right material is. The teachers realized that meant this student had really been studying hard. After that, the person in charge in the teacher's lounge tapped the sheets on the table and told them to close the subject. He added that each of them will draw up a new exam version. And tomorrow our hero has to turn it in again. The next day in the classroom, it was business as usual. The guy thought that everyone seemed to have forgotten about what had happened yesterday. But what was great was that he at least remembered all the material. Plus, his memory has improved dramatically. The teacher walked into the classroom and told Xiao Mo to go to the teacher's room with her. The classmates thought it seemed they were about to learn something incredible. The guy walked into the teacher's lounge and started saying hello to all the teachers. The teacher said they wouldn't go round and round. Some teachers doubt his honesty on the exam. There are also those who believe in him, so the teacher prepared for our hero to retake the test. He was a little surprised that he would be the only one retaking it. One of the teachers told him not to think he didn't believe his strength. Let him just see the show as an opportunity to improve his knowledge. Xiao Mo said they are very benevolent, that's why they think he cheated. Anyway, our hero has learned all the questions, so he is not afraid of retakes. Suddenly he saw something that shocked him. The teacher said there would be no opportunity for our hero to write off as it was a list of new assignments. The guy said he didn't cheat on the mock exam, but if he can't solve these assignments, he won't be fairly accused of lying. Suddenly the system appeared and asked if the host had missed her. She congratulated the guy on completing his first assignment. The teacher looked at the kid and wondered if he was intimidated by the list of questions. He said he was ready to receive his reward. The teacher told him to stop joking around. Taking a pen in his hand he began to diligently answer the questions. The teacher looked at him and thought he was still a bad student, his behavior was proof of that. Half an hour later, the guy picked up the sheet and said he was done with chemistry. After another half hour, he understood the second worksheet and said he was done with math too. The teachers watched and were shocked at how he did it so quickly. One of the teachers wasn't sure about chemistry because she was making up the questions with her, but they seemed to be correct. After checking the math, she said she got it right there, too. The teacher said it was without a doubt a great job. One of the teachers thought, if he knew that this was a flowery thing for our hero, he would make the assignment even harder. The second teacher replied that he would definitely have to work harder with physics. There are questions so complex, even the best of the best can't answer them. Our hero sat there and heard what they were saying the whole time. After some more time, he picked up the last sheet and said he was done with that one too. The teacher was surprised that he got through his work so quickly. But after looking at the contents he was even more surprised, because he had spent less than 30 minutes on such difficult tasks. The teachers were so focused on checking the assignments that they didn't notice how he easily solved all the assignments in half an hour. One of the teachers asked if he had answered all the questions faster than the teacher. If so, he must have performed poorly on purpose before. The second teacher asked if this was just some kind of game for Xiao Mo. Hearing these words, our hero replied that yes, for him it was just a game. The physics teacher asked if our hero had definitely solved the last problem himself. The one replied that he had remained under their supervision the entire time. Who else would he be able to ask for an answer from? The teacher apologized and said he was a little confused. He was very happy that our hero scored higher. He added that geniuses like him are gold, so it will be a big miss if the guy does not take part in the physics competition. Extra points for entrance exams. Thanks to this, the guy will be able to become the second best student and go to any university. Our hero replied that it wasn't really important to him, so he wouldn't participate. If there are no more questions for him, I think he'll leave. After the boy left, the teachers looked at each other in bewilderment. Walking down the corridor, the guy realized that he had completed the first system assignment very well and was rewarded, but he doubted that the next one would be easier. But 3 hours ago, the guy agreed with the system to get the reward. The reward was that he would gain the ability to quickly comprehend. The guy felt as if his mental faculties had greatly improved. To look at these assignments, they didn't seem all that difficult to him. At recess, his girlfriend met him in the hallway. The guy said hello to her and asked what she was doing on the 6th floor. The girl heard that our hero was called to the teacher's office and asked if everything was okay. The guy said no, they made him retake the exam. And everyone thinks he couldn't improve his knowledge in a short time, so he had to retake the test. The girl took his cheeks and said, let them think so, but she still believed in him. Even though his progress is truly incredible, she knows he wouldn't lie for a day. The guy looked at her and asked if she really thought so. The girl added if he keeps it up, they can go to the same university. Meanwhile, the teacher was also walking down the corridor and thought that our hero was not telling us something. Suddenly he saw the guy and asked what was the inappropriate behavior within the walls of the school. Xiao Mo replied that he didn't do anything like that, and besides, things are serious between him and the girl. The teacher was shocked, if he's really asking what the problem is. He added that they are still school children and because of any love, studies suffer. But upon hearing these words, the guy asked what place he ranked on the school's performance list. And since he's ranked number 1, there should be no more questions for him. The teacher told our hero not to talk that nonsense anymore. He added that his place in the overall standings is yet to be confirmed. Our hero said the vice principal approved his retake results. The teacher told him to stop clinging to words, and there's something suspicious about him not wanting to compete in physics. The girl cut into the conversation and said he was a respected teacher. Therefore, let him stop sending his disciples. The guy said Mr. Liu had a reason to do it. After what the teacher said, does he think our hero will want to take part in his competition? If he makes that bet with him, he'll do it. But if he loses, he'll do whatever the teacher asks. And if he wins, the teacher has to treat the whole class to a chicken. The teacher at this point began to calculate how much money he should spend if he lost. He thought our hero unexpectedly changed his mind and got serious. Xiao Mo asked if the teacher doubted that he had passed the exam honestly and was now afraid of an argument. In response, the teacher asked if the guy really wanted to make a profit at his expense. But if dinner is all he asks for as a reward, then the teacher is willing to bet. One rainy and gray day, the physics competition was finally over. Raindrops bounced off the wet asphalt where puddles had appeared. The participants gradually returned to the bus and took their seats. Mrs. Lee, glaring unhappily at the pair, the woman sincerely thought she should not expect any result from them. The girl folded her arms, realizing that this school didn't care about the competition because the teacher who was supposed to be the team leader had taken time off. Mrs. Lee had been teaching at this school for 7 years, and she couldn't lose to a new classroom teacher. At one point, the woman didn't even realize why she had gotten the job. Looking out the window, Mrs. Lee was determined that no matter what, she would be able to defeat her rival. 5 days later, the protagonist and his girlfriend, as well as the rest of the teachers, and the principal, gathered in the teacher's lounge. Our hero asked his girlfriend why, out of all the students, only they were called. She assumed what they wanted to announce the results of the competition. One of the teachers asked everyone to be quiet as the principal was about to speak at that moment. But that didn't happen as Mrs. Lee started yelling at the couple and asking why they weren't listening to anything. Also, the woman asked what class the couple was from. Xiaomi covered the girl with himself, and said that they did not disrespect the teachers. Mrs. Lee didn't stop, she only pointed her finger at the joining of the boys' hands and said that relationships were forbidden in this school. The protagonist realized that Mrs. Lee did not get along with his class teacher at all. And so, he assumed Mrs. Lee was getting even with her students. After saying those words, Xiaomi raised his hand, with Xiaoxi's hand, and then he said that indeed they had met. Letting go of the girl's hand, our hero pointed at the principal, and asked him if it was all true. With surprise, the principal spit his tea out of his mouth. And fixing his glasses, the man asked the guy, or was he saying something? Spreading his arms to the sides, Xiaomi said that according to the principal, if they won first place in the physics competition, then they could officially date. The main character gets face to face with Mrs. Lee and tells her that she won't be able to turn all the teachers against him. A physics teacher intervenes in their conversation. The man said that he was aware of all the events and to confirm this, he directly asks the principal about it. The man, wiping sweat from his forehead, says that they had discussed this recently. The principal, pointing at our hero, tells the other teachers that the school could afford Xiaomi a lot of things. After saying that, everyone in the teacher's room looked at Mrs. Lee very strangely. The girl couldn't believe that she was wrong. Mrs. Lee tried to prove something. But she is stopped by the principal and then told that now, he has to announce some very important news. The woman reluctantly still agreed to the school principal's demand. Without thinking long, the man begins to tell us that their school took first and second place in the competition. As expected, first place went to the main character. And following him, there was Xiaoxi. After these words, the principal would start clapping and congratulate the boys for winning the competition. The rest of the teachers supported the principal and also started clapping along with him. Mrs. Lee was shocked that the main character was able to win these competitions. As it turned out, the girl had never heard of our hero before. She also couldn't believe that Lu Yu was able to train a guy like this. Also, she realized that if she were our hero's class teacher, right now, everyone would be congratulating her. Mrs. Lee was incredibly jealous of her competitor. In the conference room, the teacher pulverized our hero. The one turned around and asked what he could do for him. The teacher reminded me of the bet and said it was still on. Smiling and touching himself to his beard, the teacher asked our hero to tell the rest of his classmates about the upcoming event. Xiaomi couldn't believe what he heard. After all, he thought that the teacher wouldn't take his bet seriously since the guy was just joking around. The teacher turned out to be honest. and so the deal went through. During the time the man grabbed our hero and started laughing. Xiaomi thought that the teachers weren't trying to make their lives difficult. In Mrs. Lee's class, a girl was doing a task parsing from the competition. The girl was greatly dissatisfied with the result of the test. She repeatedly told the students to follow the example of the protagonist, because it only took him a month of preparation to take first place. At the same time, in our hero's classroom, everyone was excited that they would now be eating lunch. Xiaomi, holding his head, thought that all the teachers were just worried about their grades. At the same time, Mrs. Lee was reprimanding her students, and every time, she mentioned Xiaomi as a role model. At that second, students from our hero's class were sitting around eating burgers. The students are already bored with the name of our hero. They noticed that the teacher has already mentioned the guy for the 9th time. On the last desk, sat one student. He wondered about who this Xiaomi was. At that moment, a system appeared in front of our hero. The fairy informed our hero that he had successfully completed the task, and as a reward, she gave him the ability to comprehend. The protagonist was incredibly excited about this ability. He started to test it without thinking. As it turned out, the ability was working, because before, Xiaomi couldn't understand how to solve the problem, but now, the answers were appearing by themselves. After school, when all the classes were over, our hero was packing his belongings into a backpack. And just as he was planning to leave, he is immediately spotted by Fatty Van. Without thinking long, the guy gets off his seat and asks our hero to stop. After stopping, Xiaomi first asked the guy why he didn't go home. Wang said he would have a match with the first class. With shame on his face, Fatty Wang asks our hero to go to the game and play for his class. The guy tried to get out of it and said he didn't have much time and that he needed to study. But after a couple seconds, Xiaomi agrees, as he didn't want to set his team up. With a positive attitude, the boys went to the basketball court. As soon as our hero stepped onto the field, he immediately saw his team, who were doing warm-ups at the time. Seeing Xiaomi and Fatty Wang, the other players ran over to greet them. Well, another middle of the field stood a guy from the parallel who was pretty good at basketball. Zhang Dawei said that today, Xiaomi's team would lose. The protagonist, putting on his uniform, told the guy to stop talking and start playing. The guy likes the idea, and without thinking long, he starts the game. Then, he said whoever scores 50 points first wins. After saying that, Zhang Dawei starts attacking. He walked past one defender. Zhang Dawei was easily able to beat him and run on. Stopping abruptly, he began throwing the ball into the ring. With his experience in the game, Zhang Dawei was able to get into the ring with ease. With that hit, he opened the game scoring. Our hero's team was surprised at their opponent's ball introduction technique. They realized that that guy could destroy them for the ball. Fatty Wang worriedly asked our hero why he was watching from the sidelines instead of playing. Zhang Dawei walked past our hero and told him to stay on the sidelines to watch what was going on. Xiaomi waved his hand and asked Fatty Wang not to worry. All this time, the protagonist watched as Zhang Dawei drove the ball and dashed forward. During this whole time, our protagonist felt inspiration come over him. Xiaomi saw how to improve his movements and how to correct his opponent's mistakes. And it seems our hero has already found the key to defeating the enemy. The kid hoped his new ability worked during basketball as well. At this time, Zhang Dawei once again took the ball away from our hero's team. Leading the ball to the ring, the guy kept talking about how weak Xiaomi's team was. At one point, the main character enters the game. He was able to take the ball away from Zhang Dawei with ease and without any effort. The one realized everything after our hero was already near his ring. Stopping, Xiaomi with the same throwing technique, throws the ball into the ring. As expected, Xiaomi takes the 2 points. Fatty Wong was shocked by our hero's throw. The team was also happy for the guy, they fawned over him and praised him for a pretty good throw. At the same time, Zhang Dawei was telling his team that they were losers because no one was able to block our hero's kick. One of the team members said that Zhang Dawei himself was responsible for the situation. A few minutes later, the ball was in Zhang Dawei's hands again. The protagonist and his team decided not to give up and try to win this match. After a while, absolutely all the players were lying on the field with no strength or energy. As it turned out, our hero scored 47 points for the opposing team. At the same moment, Xiaomi decides to make one throw. For him, he measured the wind speed and other indicators he needed. After getting into the desired stance, our hero began to aim for the ring. Zhang Dawei watched this, he couldn't understand what the guy was going to do. And once he realized, it was too late. Since our hero has already dropped the ball. Absolutely everyone was watching that throw. As soon as the ball hit the ring, Xiaomi's team was victorious in this competition. Taking off my uniform and grabbing my backpack. The protagonist said that next time, his opponents should only play against him. The next day, Zhang Dawei was walking near the fence of the basketball court, he had lost the mood to play, because of our hero. Walking past a field, the guy casually turns his head around and notices something going on there. Making his way through the crowd, Zhang Dawei sees one disciple scoring the ball into the ring several times in a row already. As it turned out, this was Zhao's 100th hit, everyone around him thought he was the god of basketball. Zhao notices Zhang Dawei, and asks him to join him. The guy denies it, saying he had no desire to play at all. Ignoring his friend's words, Zhao asked Zhang about the 50-point loss. In a cold sweat, the disciple says that if he was as talented as Zhao, he could easily beat Xiao Mo. Zhao, hearing the name of our hero, immediately begins to think, because before, he has heard this name somewhere. Getting closer to the net, Zhang Dawei asks his friend, or did he know the protagonist? Without thinking long, Zhao recalls the teacher mentioning Xiao Mo's name in class recently. Even his classmates were talking about him, and now, Zhao has to hear Xiao Mo's name even after class. After tossing the ball to one of the gawkers, Zhao asks his friend to tell him about that match. A little later, our hero passed by this basketball court, he asked Fatty Wong to go ahead while he waited for Xiao Shi. And at that moment, a ball comes flying at the guys out of nowhere. Due to his reaction, Xiao Mo easily catches the sudden throw. As it turned out, the ball was thrown by Zhao. He, standing at the ring, asked what our hero's name was and what class he was from. Xiao Mo was puzzled, he asked Zhao who he was and what he wanted. Zhang Dawei asked our hero. Meet the point guard on their high school team. Zhang said his buddy wanted to compete with someone in throwing a ball. Xiao Mo looked at Zhang strangely, and said that he didn't want to throw balls. And before leaving the field, our hero threw the ball hard at the guys. The moment before impact was a few centimeters away. Zhao intercepts the ball, and then he starts saying something about Xiao Shi. Zhao calls Xiao Mo a weakling, and after these words, our hero agrees to have another match. After a while, the people had already gathered at the site, none of them understood what had happened or what was going on here. Looking closely at what was happening, some were beginning to realize that someone had dared to challenge the god of the ball. Stretching his arms, Xiao Mo asks his opponent what he wanted if he won. Holding the ball in his hands, Zhao says that if he wins, Xiao Mo will never set foot on this field again, and he will also stop dating Xiao Shi. Warming up, Xiao Mo accepts his opponent's terms. But then, he says that if he wins, Zhao should call Xiao Mo his big brother. Zhao grudgingly accepts this condition. Under the supportive shouts, Zhao picked a spot and prepared to throw. Seconds later, Zhao takes a shot and the ball hits the ring. The girls that stood there were incredibly surprised and delighted by this guy's talents. Zhao started throwing balls from different positions faster and faster. He scored from almost all those places. As it turned out, Zhao hit 9 balls out of 10. The 2 guys in the crowd thought it would be better for our hero if he just gave up without playing. Without thinking long, Zhao passes the ball to Xiao Mo. As soon as the main character grabbed the ball, he immediately threw it into the ring. And because of the ball's unusual trajectory and spin, Xiao Mo not only hits the ring, but also forces the ball back in. Absolutely everyone around me was shocked by this throw. After a while, the protagonist scores his 5th goal in a row. And so, Xiao Mo had scored 9 swords, and was only 1 throw away from victory. Zhao didn't realize what was going on. He thought he wasn't playing with a human. The crowd also thought that our hero was not ordinary, for he made the ball come back to him every time. As soon as the ball hit Xiao Mo's hands, Zhao tensed up. He was thrown into a cold sweat. He couldn't believe that right now, our hero would score the 10th goal. Suddenly, to the sound and noise from the crowd came the coach of the basketball team. The protagonist saw the coach in the aisle out of the corner of his eye. Xiao Mo realized that if he got in, Coach Sun would force him to participate in various competitions, and this was not at all necessary for our hero. Under a lot of stares, Xiao Mo throws the ball. Some people watching by the trajectory of the ball saw that our hero will not be able to hit the ring. After failing, Xiaomi approaches Zhao and says they have a draw. The coach didn't see anything interesting and said that Xiao Mo was waiting for the vice principal in his office. Gathering all his things, our hero told the coach that he was going to go over there now. After the game, Zhang approached his friend, sighing with relief. He said that he almost believed that our hero was invincible. But, Zhao didn't think so. He quickly figured out Xiao Mo's plan, and realized that he had purposely missed seeing the coach in the passage. Zhang asked Zhao, or did our hero keep his reputation on purpose? Zhao never said anything in response. After a while, the protagonist approached the teacher's office. Standing at the door, the boy wondered why he had been called here after school. Opening the office, Xiao Mo Wu saw the vice principal standing in front and a disciple sitting behind him. The old man greeted our hero sweetly, and asked him to sit in one of the vacant seats. As soon as Xiao Mo entered the office, the vice principal immediately clapped his hands together and said that things were about to begin. As it turned out, the vice principal had invited the strongest and brightest students of this school to come here, but then he said that among the strongest were those who failed the entrance test. So, the old man decided that he would give extra lessons after school to reduce the number of mistakes in the tests. Hearing this, the main character gets upset about having to go to extra classes even after school. But upon seeing his girlfriend, Xiao Mo immediately changes his mood. He realized that he would never be bored with her, even in extra classes. The other students were talking about the teacher. They had heard about his merits, and how he had brought 3 students to the top. After a few seconds, the old man said that there were assignment sheets on the desks. The teacher had predetermined 2 reasons why the students were failing the tests. Firstly, students spent too much time to solve the problem. The rest of the tasks did not cause them any difficulty, but some took a very long time. Secondly, some pupils did not fully understand the task set in the test. Pupils gave a detailed solution, but after receiving the results, they realized that they made a mistake somewhere. One of the students quickly reviewed the assignments, and said that the first ones were no problem, but the rest were difficult. The main character also ran through the tasks very quickly. After a short thought, Xiao Mo offered the teacher a bet. If he could prove that these tasks were solvable, he could skip the extra classes. Hearing this, the other students thought that our hero did not understand the essence of the teacher's words. Xiao Shi heard the students' remarks. and she turned around and said that our hero could easily solve all these problems. Besides, the girl was confident that she could handle these tasks very quickly as well. One of the guys started arguing with the girl, because of which, there was a little conflict between them. The deputy director saw this and quickly approached the boys to unhook them. Back to the conversation with our hero, the old man told the guy to share his experience as it could be very useful to them. Without thinking long, Xiao Mo starts walking to the center of the classroom that tells something new to those here. Our hero said that the kids could study sample problem solving to improve their skills. It was something like a programmatic algorithm for action. After all, by memorizing the solutions to some problems, students can easily improve their performance. Next, Xiao Mo begins to explain to the students easier ways to solve some problems that can take many times less time. One of the students said that they would have to learn a lot, and even if they didn't get an assignment like this, they would just be wasting their time. Spreading his arms out to the sides, our hero tells each of the students to choose the best way for themselves. The vice principal, after hearing Xiao Mo's explanations, began to applaud and admire him, because thanks to this method, the tasks could be solved several times faster. The students hearing the whole method, the same asked or was it possible. The deputy director, briefly thinking, said that everything would be easy for them, because in the words he heard, he saw only common sense. Suddenly, the system alerted our hero that he had been gifted with yet another new skill. A month later, the guys were sitting in the same office. Teacher was congratulating Xiao Mo as he had surpassed all the students in the school and won first place in the trial exam. Our hero turned around and said that he should thank the teacher for his result. One of the guys raised his hand and thanked the whole group, for through it, he began to understand the idea of working on difficult questions. In his mind, Xiao Mo said that without a marvelous system like his, they would never reach a level like his. Unexpectedly, Xiao Mo turned his attention to the sad Xiao Shi who was looking at him. Without thinking long, our hero asks the girl what's wrong. She didn't want to tell the truth at first. And then Xiao Mo took the girl's hand and asked her to tell what happened. The teacher saw this, and then he said that all classes were over for the day and the rest of us were free to go. The students heard the teacher's words and immediately got up and started to follow him. The last person to leave the office asked the couple to close the doors after them. Left alone, our hero's gaze and Xiaoxi's gaze converged. Soyami once again asked the girl what happened. And this time, Xiaoxi agreed to tell everything. As it turned out, the reason for the girl's sadness was that they probably won't be able to get into the same college. Hearing this news, Xiaomi immediately asks why. Xiaoxi stepped back a few meters and said that her mother wanted her to study abroad. Already standing at the window, the girl was talking about how she wanted to go to the same college with our hero. Xiaomi did not put his hands down, he walked over to the girl and said that he would think of something. After a while, the protagonist and Xiaoxi were already sitting at her house. There, sitting behind a big and soft chair, Xiaoxi's mom said that she trusted her daughter's choice. However, despite the fact that the woman was the opposite of their relationship, she still thought her daughter's future came first. After all, as a mother, she wanted to give her daughter the best education as well as a future. At this time, Xiaomi pondered how he would respond to these words. As soon as Xiaoxi tried to say something, she is immediately stopped by her mom. And then, the woman says that she really wanted to listen to our hero, since he came here to change her mind. Xiaomi immediately agreed with his girlfriend's mom's words. Without thinking long, he asked Xiaoxi to briefly talk to her mom. After a few seconds, Xiaomi gets up from her seat, and asks the woman what exactly she meant by good education. Without waiting for an answer, Xiaomi starts to throw around different answers. The woman hears all of this and says that of all of the above, she didn't think anything was important. And then, the girl asked the same question to our hero. The guy was not confused, and named several types of people who built the foundation of education. Said words directly struck the woman. She began to clap and cheer for such an answer. But, after a few seconds, it subsides, because our hero missed one important detail. The confrontation between our hero and Xiaoxi's mom was like a game of cards. The girl was pleasantly surprised by the guy's words and he managed to impress her. Still, he left out one important detail. As it turned out, that detail was connections. The protagonist activated the anticipate opponent's actions skill, thus he made his move. The woman completely agreed with Xiao Mo's words. She also put the cards on the table to make her move. Xiaoxi's mom said that by keeping in touch with their college friends, the boys will have an easier time in the adult world. With this move, the woman hit all of our hero's cards. Xiao Mo analyzed the whole situation and didn't panic. The guy took matters into his own hands, and he said that connections are made by those with power. Xiao Mo said it may have been important for someone to make college connections. But he and Xiaoxi didn't need them. The woman really liked the words and arguments of the protagonist. She said that the one who is below her in status, usually even afraid to breathe near her. It had been a long time since the girl had seen such unusual people like Xiao Mo. It was a rarity for her to have a high school student show such boldness towards her. Through this dialogue, Xiaoxi's mom even briefly recalled her youth. Even Xiaoxi was surprised to see her mom like this. Our hero was also very pleased with what had happened. He realized that his argument of strength in people had resonated with the woman's heart. And at that moment, something happened to our hero, something clicked in his head. All of a sudden, the guy offered the woman a bet with him. At first, the woman didn't even believe what she had just heard. Xiaoxi's mom was angry for some reason. She told the boy to remember that he was still in school. She didn't want his impulse to affect his studies. The protagonist said his studies wouldn't be affected in any way, because he wanted to bet on his entrance exam scores. And then, Xiao Mo said that if he got the maximum score, the woman should promise that his girlfriend would stay in China. The woman was perplexed. She couldn't believe that the guy could score 750 points. Our hero said that it's not easy at all, and no one has ever managed to get the highest score at the entrance exams before. But, for the sake of his girlfriend, the protagonist was ready for anything, and if he wasn't worthy of her, he wouldn't have offered the woman such a bet. After saying that, Xiaoxi's mom said that at first Xiao Mo surprised her in a good way. But she didn't expect the protagonist to have such a high opinion of herself. After these words, the woman agreed to make a bet with our hero, but if he loses, she will think whether he is worthy of her daughter. Xiaoxi tried to intervene in the conversation, but no one listened to her. After the woman said she would entrust her daughter to such a selfish man, she turned around and said she was tired. And after these words, the auntie asked her daughter to escort the protagonist to the door. Xiao Mo asked his girlfriend not to worry about him as he was confident that he could change her mom's mind. The guy said goodbye to everyone, and he said he had to go. On the way back, our hero was thinking about how he'd screwed up. He put the whole situation on the system. He thought it was responsible for what had just happened. That same evening, the protagonist went to night classes at school. There, he was reading a newspaper. Fatty Wang asked the guy, or was he not too confident, for Wang thought our hero had stopped studying. Xiao Mo didn't even look at the guy, saying that he was reading the paper to increase his knowledge. Fatty Van said that reading newspapers won't do our hero any good. And then, Xiao Mo began to explain to his friend, to get a good grade, you need to get 9 out of 10 points in the rest of the subjects, including essay writing. Already home from school, our hero was talking to the system. He called the system stupid because it didn't show up for him sooner. The girl got really mad, but the guy, and said she wasn't like that. Then, Xiaomo asked the girl about the task she had given him. Xiaoba was offended and so she said that no additional information was provided. But then, she said the system wouldn't give him an assignment he couldn't handle. After analyzing this information, the protagonist realizes that he can get the highest score on the entrance exams. Suddenly, the girl changes the subject and says she showed up to give our hero an award for the basketball game. And at this moment, Xiaomo realized why the girl had assigned our hero such a strange task. After a few seconds, the system bestows the main character with the skill of a master calligrapher. After seeing this skill, our hero said the system that this skill would not help him in any way. That was the end of their conversation. The next day the protagonist sat in class thinking only about how he could write an essay. The guy realized that he had to get the reviewer to give him the highest grade. Using one special skill, he has to write a great essay that should touch people's hearts. It was nearing evening, class was finally over. Fatty Wong suggested that Xiaomo go play ball. But, the guy refuses. After all, today he has to introduce his girlfriend to his mom. After class, the couple was walking home to the main character's house. Already standing at the front door, Xiaoxi said that she was a little nervous. Xiaomo asked her not to worry since he had a wonderful mom. Suddenly, the front doors open. On the threshold of the guys are greeted by our hero's mom. Seeing Xiaoxi, mom didn't even realize who she was at first. But then, the guy reveals that Xiaoxi is his girlfriend, and that he's talked about her before. Taking a closer look at the girl, mom was surprised at how beautiful she was. And after a few seconds, the mom takes the girl from our hero and escorts her into the house. Looking at this whole picture, Xiaomo saw delight on his mom's face for the first time. He couldn't even remember the last time she did this. In the evening, the couple, along with our hero's mom, dined and chatted and had a good time. After that, Xiaoxi and Xiaomo's mother said goodbye, and the woman asked Xiaomo to bring her home more often. On the way home, Xiaoxi said that our hero's mom was softer than hers. During this walk, our hero told the girl that he would try to give it his best. At first, Xiaoxi didn't understand what the guy was talking about. But then, Xiaomo confidently said that he would get the highest score in the entrance exam. He would prove to the girl that he could do it. A few months later, a crowd of expectant parents gathered outside the school. On the way to school, there was a very interesting girl named Yu walking. Yu was a reporter who was currently broadcasting live on the day of the entrance exam. As she got closer to the school, she saw a lot of people gathered near the fence. The entrance exam is a big event for every family. Viewers who watched this broadcast wrote unusual comments to the girl's report. Suddenly, Yu saw our hero and his girlfriend leaving the school grounds. Speedu they were happy and joyful. After a few seconds, the girl runs up to the guys and asks them how everything happened. Our hero, without thinking long, says that they have written all the assignments and turned them in. Yu was shocked at what she had just heard. After all, she thought that the guys had been kicked out of the exam for some offense. Coming to her senses, the girl asked how difficult the assignments were this year. Xiaomo said that these tasks were not too difficult. And then the next thing he said was that he would get the highest grade. From those words, the reporter couldn't find a place to go. The girl thought the guy would only get a perfect score in one subject. But then, Xiaomo says he meant the highest score for all subjects. Since it was all live on air, people started laughing at our hero and saying that he was talking nonsense, without insults, too. Yu thanked the guy for the answer. I said she would interview the rest of the guys. After stepping back a few meters, the reporter thought our hero was a little strange. As it turned out, Xiaomo's words quickly went viral all over the internet. Absolutely everywhere he was discussed and even criticized for his words. Even the local high school newspaper did an article on the guy. Also, the principal of the school our hero attended found out about it. And so, Xiao Mo came to the principal for his order. The director got up from his chair and started walking to meet our hero. Putting his hand on his shoulder, the man said the boy had been careless. The principal turned around and picked up a newspaper from his desk with an article about the guy. The man asked our hero to take a look at it. Taking the newspaper in his hands, Xiao Mo began to read in his voice the article the reporters had written about him. Folding this paper into a tube, the guy says the reporters made a big deal out of it. The director said that if the case involved someone else, then there would be no problem. But the whole point was that it was the main character who was hit. The results of the exams have not yet been announced, and he has already managed to become famous all over the internet. The principal asked the kid how they were going to restore the school's reputation now. Xiao Mo didn't panic at all. He said that during the interview he was only telling the truth, and if everything works out, the school will come first. At the same moment, at the same time, together with the entrance exams. The examiner was checking the main character's work. First he noticed that this work had excellent handwriting. And looking more closely at the work, the checker realized that it is a work without a single mistake. At this time, a supervisor approached the man. The man asked him to take a look at this essay. Without a moment's thought, the supervisor begins to check and read the paper once more. Even the supervisor was shocked at how great a job it was. After a few seconds, the supervisor said that this work was worthy of the highest grade. Also the checker said that the student had done all the tasks correctly. The supervisor ordered the reviewer to give this work a well-deserved top grade. On this day, Xiao Shi's mom's office had already heard rumors of something incredible. There, the checker was telling his colleague that one student had scored the maximum number of points this year. At first the girl didn't even believe it, and then she asked the man where he got this information from. The checker said that in a few days the results would be posted and the truth would be revealed. Xiao Shi's mom, hearing all this, immediately thought of our hero. After a while, the couple was sitting on the couch at the girl's house. At this point, they were doing something. As it turned out, the results of the entrance exam were already known, and all the guy had to do was check them. Going to the results site, Xiao Shi clutched her eyes and only thought about making sure the guy succeeded. After a few seconds, the main character starts screaming happily and saying that his name was there. After a while, the girl's mom came home. Taking her shoes off, she said that some news came to her this morning. Xiao Shi ran up to her mom to meet her and help her with the bags. Auntie saw that our hero was here. Xiao Mo greeted the woman and apologized for disturbing her. Xiao Shi happily said that they had gotten the exam results. Looking at all this, Auntie guessed why her daughter was in a good mood. Quickly shifting her gaze to our hero, the girl's mom saw that the guy had something to say to her. Xiao Mo turned his phone around and showed the woman the result of his test. As he promised, the maximum score was obtained. But suddenly the smile disappeared from the boy's face, for he saw that the woman was not particularly surprised by it. In fact, she had learned of the protagonist's results even earlier. She said the morning news announced that there would be an applicant with a better test score this year. Xiao Mo was surprised that the woman had learned this from a newspaper. Unexpectedly, Xiao Shi asked her mom about studying abroad. The woman turned her head and said she didn't mind the girl staying here. Hearing this, Xiao Shi began to cheer and clap her hands. But, Auntie turned to our hero and said that the fact that he got the maximum score was astounding. But it wasn't enough for the woman to impress her. The protagonist was troubled upon hearing these words. Passing by the guy, the woman said she liked his courage and determination, as well as his ability to back up his words with actions. And at that moment, putting her hand on her shoulder, the auntie said that she trusts her daughter to the protagonist. A radiant smile appeared on Xiao Mo's face. He said that Xiao Shi was in good hands. And then, the guy ran to his girlfriend to hug her. In honor of the work done, the protagonist and Xiaoxi hugged each other. Suddenly, Auntie sitting on the couch said it was time to promise her something. The woman told the boys not to dare make grandsons until after college. At these words, the couple was embarrassed and perplexed. The woman said the guys were too young. She didn't want to become a grandmother before they graduated from college. Xiaoxi hugged her mom and asked her to stop talking about it. Our hero raised his right hand, and promised it wouldn't happen. The woman decided to trust the guy's word, all because he had already fulfilled his promise once by scoring maximum points. Of course, there's no way this situation could have gone without some extra thought. Suddenly, the protagonist gets a call from his mom. The guy picks up the phone and asks what's wrong. Mom standing by the phone, the woman said she had received several calls from the university admissions office. Did Mom ask, or was everything the board said true? Xiao Mo didn't think long and said that it was all true. The boy said his mom would have been proud of him because he was the first-ranking student to pass the entrance exam. At these words, the main character's mom let a tear fall. She began to remember how she used to make her son go to bed when he was working hard. How she, in the middle of the night, stood outside his room and marveled at the fact that the guy was still studying. Our hero's mom cried and talked about what a tough few months it had been for him. She also did not expect her son to get the highest score in the entrance exam. Soya Mo asked his mom not to worry because in the future, the woman will be even more proud of the guy. 2 days later, the protagonist on a bicycle drove up to his girlfriend's house. Upon meeting Xiaoxi, the guy was surprised from how beautiful and gorgeous she was. In truth, it was. Without thinking long, Xiao Mo asked Xiaoxi to hop onto his bike. After a while, the main character and his girlfriend were bicycling somewhere. The boys were driving through some very beautiful and mesmerizing places in their city. On the way, the protagonist recalled how a few months ago everyone laughed at him and didn't take him seriously. But now, every student at his school knew and applauded him. Stopping outside the school, Xiaoxi asked the guy where he planned to apply to. Xiao Mo wanted to go to the same college with the girl. As they approached the school, the couple was very surprised by what was hanging on the wall of the building. Congratulatory ribbons were hung on the windows of the school in honor of a successful test. Xiaoxi immediately teased her boyfriend and said that he was being congratulated. Suddenly, the main character was approached by the school principal. He said that the guy had done a huge favor for his school. Xiao Mo was thrown into a cold sweat, and he said that it wasn't such a big deal. Our hero saw all the teachers of his school gathered to congratulate him. Xiao Mo was confused, he thought that he was completely unworthy of such an honor. Suddenly the principal said that for the outstanding result of our hero in the entrance exams, the school decided to give him a place on the wall of honor. Not only was Xiao Mo stunned by what he heard, the other teachers were also shocked by the principal's words. As it turns out, in the entire 40 years of the school's existence, only 4 people have had this honor. A titan of the literary world, an internet giant who built a career from the ground up. A politician who has contributed to the development of the country. As well as an academician who has achieved high results in scientific activity. And now it's the main character's turn to take his place on the wall of honor. The teacher couldn't believe that at the age of 18, a guy could stand on the same level as such strong personalities. The teacher went up to the principal and asked him, or was that not too much of a reward? At this, the principal only turned around and asked the girl one question. He asked Mrs. Liu why they needed a wall of honor. Without waiting for an answer, the principal said that it was to showcase the greatness of their school. Also, the director said that the wall of honor, for many years has been a benchmark of social success. The man continued, and said that if even a brilliant student like our hero does not take his place on the wall, then no one else will. Hearing the principal's words, Mrs. Liu thought for a moment. She thought it all sounded reasonable. After a few seconds, the principal shouted that the protagonist deserved to be on the wall of honor. Everyone around was shocked by the headmaster's words. The students were speechless for a second. Suddenly, absolutely everyone began to applaud Xiao Mo. But even after all this, our hero kept saying that he couldn't accept such a reward. And suddenly the director approached the guy. He asked the hero or he wanted to refuse. But after the man said that because of him, the school would get a 20,000 guarantee. And for each one on the wall of honor, the guy will get 500,000 yuan. The protagonist of the same agrees to all the terms. It was as if he had been replaced and said it was his duty to set an example for all the students. The principal was pleased with Xiao Mo's correct decision. After that, the man turned his back to the guy and told him to be ready, as Xiao Mo had something to do soon. Our hero never realized what he should be preparing for. Hearing this, the principal said that the media wanted to interview Xiao Mo, so the principal asked the guy to prepare carefully for the event. At first, the hero never realized what kind of interview was waiting for him. And then the director said that it would be broadcast live and have a lot of viewers. After all, our hero was the first person in history to get the highest score. A short time later, the director was being interviewed in his office. After the principal said his speech, the reporter approached our hero and asked him for his advice to the future and younger generation. Xiao Mo took a deep breath and realized that he had to think of something. He couldn't say that it was all due to the system, after all. The guy thought about what merit the system gave him, and what in fact he had done. And after pondering, Xiao Mo said one piece of advice, namely, don't be afraid to hit the dirt with your face. Neither the principal or the reporter understood absolutely nothing. Our hero knew that in the beginning many people would hate him and laugh at him. And then, he started giving various tips on camera. Toward the end, Xiao Mo said that his main secret was that he wasn't afraid of falling in the eyes of others. All of these rantings were listened to by students in different schools. Even those who had previously offended our hero began to admire him and follow his example. On top of all this, was the fact that the system awarded our hero 10,000 points for the love of fans. Already at home, a system appeared in front of Xiao Mo. It turns out, those points he had gotten earlier, he could spend on the lottery. The system asked our hero, or was he ready to start the lottery? It didn't take long for Xiao Mo to say to the girl to start the game. The system started the game. Now everything depended on the guy's luck. A few seconds later, the system notified our hero that he had won a skill called Brilliant Idea. Hearing this, our hero wondered what this skill was. After all, he had heard of it for the first time. And then the girl began to tell me that chemists had once discovered the structure of the benzene ring. And the mathematicians built a right pentagon. The girl hinted that this skill could do something similar. Hearing all of this, Xiao Mo immediately became eager to try out this skill. While the protagonist was looking for something on his phone, the girl gradually disappears, said the guy to turn to her in case of need. As it turned out, Xiao Mo wanted to solve 5 mathematical hypotheses. And using his new skill, the guy started proving them. After a few minutes, a solution came to his mind, which he began to write down on pieces of paper. It was nearing evening when the work was finished. And at one point there was a knock on the door. Mom immediately went to the door to see who was there. As it turned out, the chairman of the admission committee of one very famous and popular university came to our hero's house. Mom was shocked that our hero was personally visited by the chairman. After coming to her senses, the woman asked the man to come into the house. Suddenly another man came into the house. He also came on behalf of the admissions office of a renowned university. As soon as the men's gazes met, there was a small conflict between them, as it turned out they were enemies. Suddenly, on Mr. Lee's foot fell a sheet with the solutions to incredible problems that our hero has not recently solved. While the second man was explaining to our hero's mother which university he represented, Mr. Lee was considering solving mathematical hypotheses. And the moment the fat man asked Mom to sign the papers, the man with the glasses told him to stop what he was doing. The chairman grabbed our hero by the shoulders and started shaking him. He told our hero to choose his university because if he did, he would get 5 million yuan a month. Upon hearing this figure, the second chairman was shocked. Mr. Lee continued to tell Xiao Mo about how many things he would do for the guy to get him into his university. After his story, Mr. Lee asked our hero what he would do after all. The chairman did and said all these things for a reason. He realized that he couldn't miss out on such a brilliant disciple like Xiao Mo.